What up? You know, this is going to be a very controversial topic of discussion. Talk about the 10 greatest players of all time in the NBA history. And Zion Williamson had a goal. That's to be one of the 10 greatest players of all time. Can he be? Yeah, he can. He could. But do I think that's going to happen? No, I do not. Now, I'm going to list my top 10 players of all time. I've listed a couple times throughout my channel. And it's going to be controversial because a lot of fans are just fanboys. They're two-dimensional thinkers, and they have no consistent, constructive structure. That's what I'm going to provide within here. So my top 10 greatest players of all time. At number 1, I do have Michael Jordan. This is undisputed. There's no reason, no way that someone should have Kobe, LeBron, or any of these players over Michael Jordan. That's not the case. MJ is the greatest player of all time. I do not have to go in depth for that conversation. Number 2, I do have Bill Russell. And Bill Russell is one of the most disrespected all-time greats of all time. Even though he did not play in the modern day and age of NBA basketball, he won 11 championships. And within those championships, he went against one of the greatest of all times when you're going against Wilt Chamberlain, with Jerry West, Elgin Baylor, so on and so forth, these players. Bill Russell was the greatest defensive big of all time. Whenever he joined the Boston Celtics, they were an all-time legacy and dynasty. Now, you did have around 8 teams in the NBA and really no free agency, but the Celtics with Bill Russell dominated. Whenever Bill Russell retired and left, the Celtics were not on that level again whatsoever. And during that time period, they did not have finals MVPs, so we could not know how many he could have won, but if anything, it would have been at least over 8 finals MVPs. Bill Russell was the second greatest player of all time, and even if you were playing today's day and age in the basketball, or the 90s and 80s, he would have dominated. Number 3, I do have Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Not too much to talk about there. Most people have Kareem top 2, top 3 anyways. And number 4, I do now have LeBron James as the 4th greatest player of all time. Ever since he won the 2020 NBA championship, I leapfrog him over Magic Johnson, and now he's officially in the Mount Rushmore of the NBA. And a lot of cats had LeBron at number 2. Some had him the GOAT. Some had him number 3 and all that. Listen, LeBron James, before his 4th championship, was not top 3 or in the Mount Rushmore of the NBA basketball history. He was not. I don't want to hear that with anyone. He was not. You cannot be 3-6 in the finals, move from team to team, and you only have 3 championships. You got to have at least 4 NBA championships and in that mix. Now, him and Michael Jordan, the only players with 4 finals MVPs and above. So he's in the class with Michael Jordan. But Bill Russell and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, they do have more championships all time, number 1. Number 2, they do have more regular season MVPs, and they've been more consistent at dominance when it comes to winning. LeBron James has been very up and down when it comes down to it. Now, I fully expect LeBron James to win at least 1 or 2 more championships with the Lakers, so that's going to change on my standings of things. And if LeBron James, and I expect him to win the 2021 NBA championship, if and when that goes down, he's definitely going to have to move up in my list. But we'll cover more whenever that happens. At number 5, I do have Magic Johnson, who was bumped by LeBron James. So Magic's at 5. At number 6, I do have Larry Bird. Very underrated. A lot of people don't even have him as top 10. Some of them have him number 8 through 10. Larry Bird should be number 6 all time. I'll go more in depth within this video, hopefully. Number 7 is going to be Shaquille O'Neal. At number 8, I do have Tim Duncan. Then at number 9 through 10 through 11, it could be up in there, but you can put Kobe Bryant, you can have Wilt Chamberlain, and you can have Hakeem. So those 3 can kind of intertwine within me, but probably going to keep it within that order. So that's kind of around my top 10, top 11. For Zion Williamson, if he wants to reach within that range, actually, well, let's jump into here. We'll talk more about it.
I don't think he says this unless the interviewer brings it up. I think he was kind of repeating what the interviewer said, so I'll give him that. I also think he ended it well by saying, I got to win, because that's what it's going to come down to. Can he win championships? And as much as I believe Zion, if he stays healthy, will likely be a Hall of Famer, I feel very confident saying that. I am not going to go as far as top 10. I'm not going to write it off completely. Who knows? But I think there's a better chance of Zion becoming like a Russell Westbrook or Allen Iverson than there is that he becomes a top 10 player of all time. And what I mean is Westbrook and Iverson, like, Zion could put up incredible individual statistics. Westbrook, the 4 years, he's averaging a triple-double this year, by the way. So it could be 4 years of a triple-double average for a season. Zion could have these incredible scoring numbers and field goal percentages, become a cultural icon and a legend like Iverson and Westbrook, but yet not win championships. He probably will end up somewhere in between those guys and the top 10 all time, but I think there's a better chance he's one of those guys than he is a top 10. When you look at the top 10 of all time, there's two factors with all of them. They're either 7-footers or they have these incredible skills and they made their teammates better. Jordan, Magic, Bird, LeBron. Everybody else is a 7-footer. And those guys, those non-7-footers I mentioned, had court vision, made their teammates better, and Jordan, of course, was Jordan. So I don't see the court vision, even though he's a decent passer and he can handle the basketball and all that. I don't see Zion necessarily making his teammates better the way a Magic, Bird, and, of course, LeBron did or do.
The ceiling for Zion Williamson, his goal should be top 10. I mean, if anything, with that size and his length, he should aim to be around, realistically, yeah, probably top 10, not top 5. But the thing with Zion Williamson, he does play off the ball. He has been working more this season to playing more on the ball. But the thing is, he is a power forward. He's going to have to lose some weight. He's going to have to lose some fat and play more on the ball. The thing with him, with Zion Williamson, is he's not a LeBron James. He's not a Giannis Antetokounmpo. He does have that structure and size advantage against majority of the league, but he needs to work more on the ball, more of a slasher, more of working on pull-up dribble and take a shot, especially in the clutch. He's been playing more off the ball in that team system, which he's been acclimated ever since by playing into college basketball. And that's what they do. They play more in a team system, and that's what he's resembled. And that's why he's such an efficient player, because he plays off the ball, gets the easy shots down low, he cuts, he goes for alley-oops. It is what it is on that. But for Zion Williamson, I'm going to need him to play more of a 3. He does play a 4, but within his years, he's going to have to play more on the ball. If he's able to do so, he'll dictate the pace of the game. He'll be able to get his scoring numbers up, his impact to go up, and as well as within that, we're going to see more of an impact of wins for the Pelicans because they missed the playoffs last season, and he was hurt, so not too much on him, or it's not on him. This season, he's been somewhat, pretty much healthy the whole season. So basically for Zion Williamson, they're sitting, like around a 10th, 11th seed. And we fully expected the Pelicans to make the playoffs with this roster. And that's not getting it done with. So Zion Williamson, I'm not going to put him in the class as a Giannis or a LeBron James. Nowhere in that mix. But Zion Williamson does have the potential. He needs to work to play more on the ball, impact type player to dictate the pace of a game. Because if he's going to stay to play off the ball majority of his career, kind of play like that Charles Barkley type basis, then he can get you 1 to 2 finals and maybe a championship. But, if he works to play more on the ball, I fully expect his potential to be around 1 to 2 championships in his career. I do not expect him. He's not going to trend to win 4, 5, or 6. I doubt that's the case, but who knows? It's his second season, man.
Yeah, but what if he ends up playing like a 7-footer because of the athleticism? So you mentioned Iverson and Russ. So before I get to the numbers, I want to respond to that. Iverson and Russ both had what I would consider 2, not fatal flaws, but 2 flaws, if you will. One was they were both, in Russ's case are both, inefficient scorers. That is not a problem with Zion. It's the opposite. And the other one is, and I adore both of these players, a little stubborn, a little hard-headed, and that probably hurt them. Zion does not appear to be that at all.
Iverson was so hard-headed and had an ego that when they had Larry Brown in the crew, they literally had to get rid of Jerry Stackhouse. They had to let go of all these offensive on-ball players to appease Iverson with defensive players out there and catching shooters. So Iverson had an ego. That's why he had his only one great season of a stellar all-time great season in 2001. And that was a one-time thing. The rest, he had great seasons, but he only had that one all-time great season in 2001. When you're looking at Russell Westbrook, he does have an ego as well. He needs to play on the ball, and everything has to be dictates towards him. Zion Williamson can play off the ball. He played in a team system in college. And he resembles that into the NBA. He's very unselfish, but now he needs to get more of a dog into him to where he needs to work to play on the ball. And he's still young. It could happen. It's going to happen.
As far as efficiency goes, and we can show his last 3 months, he is having arguably the most efficient season ever. Those numbers are make-believe. And when you say a 7-footer, the guy who's right there at the fringe of the top 10 is Shaquille O'Neal. And Zion right now is in the midst of a stretch that has only ever been topped once in NBA history, and it was during Shaq's total, utter domination apex that 01 season, and Zion's probably going to break that streak. So, of course, I'm not sitting here saying Zion's going to be one of the 10 greatest players ever, but he's 20 years old, Wilds, and he couldn't be off to a better start.
Man, Williamson in the next 3 to 5 seasons, he's going to win at least 3 regular season MVPs. He can probably crank it up even more. Whenever LeBron James retires and you have, Steph Curry's of the world, Harden, Kevin Durant get up in age around 34, 35, Zion Williamson and Luka Doncic is going to take over the NBA, winning regular season MVPs. Now, hopefully during that time period, they'll be contenders to make it into the finals, but wait until 2024. That's when they're really going to kick it off in the majority MVP discussions, let alone into making the finals.
If you want to talk about who is on that list, Wilds, if we just go modern era, so we just go basically Kareem to now, so remove the Russell and Wilt. And don't argue with me about the order, but here are the names. You have LeBron, Michael, Kareem, Magic, Duncan, Kobe, Bird, and then it gets a little interesting.
The notion of putting Kobe Bryant that low around 5 or 6 is that's not the case at all. And I'm going to see more fanboys get mad at me about this ever since Kobe Bryant passed away. Listen, I'm not going to get into my feelings, neither should you, but majority of people out here are here for hot takes, and they don't like controversy because it gets them in the wrong direction. Listen, number 1 is Michael Jordan. That's undisputed. Nick Wright putting LeBron James is just a narrative. He knows LeBron James is not the greatest player of all time. He only has 4 championships and 6 finals losses. Michael Jordan pretty much has a somewhat almost complete, flawless resume. Now, Bill Russell pretty much has that, but Michael Jordan was in the modern day and age, and during back then, you would have centers dominate, be the franchise player, and win championships. Michael Jordan was the only player after these big men to be a shooting guard and dominate. I mean, you had Bill Russell. Then after that, you did have Kareem, going a little further, but Kareem was with Magic, but Kareem was arguably greater than Magic all time. After Kareem, you did have Hakeem in that mix. And then you kind of go on and you go so forth, where we at within that. And then, you got, and within the phase, you had the big men, and, you had Patrick Ewing, even though they didn't win a championship. And then you had Michael Jordan come in. He changed the whole league by being a shooting guard, offensive player, number 1 option, winning championships and not even losing. He retired, Hakeem came back, and it went back to that traditional center. You did have the Rockets against the Knicks in the finals. That was with Patrick Ewing, a big. Then you had Hakeem go against Shaquille O'Neal, another big, with the Magic in 95. Michael came back, dominated with another 3-peat. And then after that, where did it go with? It went with Tim Duncan and David Robinson with the Spurs. And then the next year, you had Shaq for the next 3 seasons. And then the Pistons were somewhat of a blip with, Chauncey Billups and the crew. Then it went back to the Spurs. And then you had Shaquille O'Neal and D. Wade with the Heat. And then it kind of went on from there for LeBron and them and yada, yada. But basically within that, big men were dominating. Michael Jordan changed the paradigm of the league. He's the greatest player of all time. I don't have to go too much in depth on that. Kobe Bryant is not number 6, number 5 all time. Tim Duncan is not number 5, number 6 all time. No. And disrespectful for Larry Bird. I think he put Larry at number 8 or so. No.
Hakeem, Shaq, Dr. J, Moses, KD, Steph. There's 13 guys. So you see Shaq's...
No, Kevin Durant is not a top 12 player of all time, nor is he greater than Steph Curry all time. No, sir. Kevin Durant's probably around top 20, top 25. So for me, I already gave my top 11 or so. At number 12, I'm going to have to put Steph Curry. At 13, Isaiah Thomas. At number 14, Oscar Robinson, and then number 15, and so on and so forth, and kind of be pushed off from there. But no, Kevin Durant is not 12, and he's not greater than Steph Curry all time. Actually, I'm going to have to put probably Dr. J, number 14, number 15. But Dr. J is not top 10 all time. No.
Right there at 8, 9, 10, 11 with Hakeem, Shaq, Moses, Dr. J, and then Katie and Steph obviously could move up higher. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that Zion joins that group. It is a million things have to go right, but he couldn't be off to a better start. And the top two guys on that list, by the way, LeBron and Michael, did not win.
And as well, Kawhi Leonard is a top 20 player of all time. He's won 2 championships, 2 finals MVPs. Now the one with the San Antonio Spurs. Actually, you can put Kawhi top 20, top 25. Top 25 on kind of on a safety net. Top 20, arguably. He's somewhere around there. Now, winning that championship with Toronto was huge within his first season, taking down those Warriors without Kevin Durant, but still, huge accomplishment. Him winning his first championship with the Spurs as a finals MVP, he was a young pup. He was not an all-star type player, but still a dominant performance by him. But don't bat an eye on Kawhi Leonard, top 20, top 25 in that range.
Early. LeBron missed the playoffs the first 2 years. Michael won 1 solitary playoff game before Scottie Pippen joined him years into his career. So it's not like you have to do...
Nah, I don't want to hear that. Listen, Michael Jordan's first 3 seasons, he got bounced by the Boston Celtics, all-time great team, and the Milwaukee Bucks. It was his first 3 seasons or so. After that, Michael Jordan went on to win, even though he did bring in Scottie Pippen alongside with him. And Scottie Pippen was not the reason why they won all those games. He was a huge part of it, but Michael Jordan would dominate, averaging over 30 a night. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. LeBron James did not make the playoffs his first 2 seasons. I mean, them bringing, Larry Hughes or so? Was he the reason why they won? Oh, come on, man.
What Kareem did and win a championship in year 2, or do what Shaq did and make the finals very early on in your time in Orlando. You can have a growth period even though Magic and Larry didn't. So for all those reasons, I don't think it's an insane goal for Zion to have.
Looking within those names, will Zion be a top 10 greatest player of all time? Most likely not. I think the best bet he does have is going to be around, if he can fill in that number 10 spot. Because if we're looking at the list, again, MJ 1, Bill at 2, Kareem at 3, LeBron at 4, number 5, Magic, number 6, Larry, number 7, Shaq, number 8, 10, Duncan, number 9, let's just say Kobe. Now, number 10, I do have either Hakeem or Wilt Chamberlain. Zion Williamson has a great opportunity to pass either of those two to make it in the top 10. Will he? I'm going to say most likely not, but who knows?
Yeah, and what I thought was interesting about your list, and Broussard, I'll throw it to you, was those guys aren't solo acts. Everybody that you named had a superstar teammate. And Broussard, what you talked about, I know Russ had KD for a little while, KD left. Iverson had Melo in Denver, but those real like Philadelphia teams were kind of built by, you know, I like Mutombo and I like Andre Iguodala, but that wasn't like he didn't have another superstar. So who do you, in your mind, if Zion was to make the jump, Brandon Ingram, nice player, probably not a superstar, who do you think matches Zion's game, you know, perfectly for the next decade? We're like, wow, this could really propel him to the next level.
I mean, it's a tough one. You're putting me on the spot within that. If Zion wants to be the number 1 option, it's a tough one. I would say for Zion Williamson, he would need another guard that's an all-star type basis, like a Ja Morant. That would be ideal. Luka Doncic is pretty much greater than Zion Williamson, so that pretty much wouldn't work. If you're talking about Zion being the finals MVP and yada yada. Ja Morant would be an underrated great pairing. If you're looking at a wing, Brandon Ingram, I don't expect Brandon Ingram to hit that huge level when it comes down to like a Kevin Durant type basis, but he's made some leaps. I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure, but yeah, I'll let him answer. I have to think more about this.
It would have to be a shooter, a Trae Young, a guy that can shoot with range, open things up for Zion in the middle, but also is a great passer. And let me clear this up, Nick. Zion's game is nothing like Russ's and Iverson's for the most part, other than driving the basketball. So I'm not saying stylistically or, like you said, efficiency-wise. I'm just saying as far as being a cultural icon, a legend, a guy that put up these awe-inspiring numbers but never won. And I'm not saying he won, but you see what I'm saying? I'm saying better chance of him being that than being a top 10 player.
Woo. Listen, so what are the chances Zion ends his career as a top 10 player all time? I mean, you guys know the history of the game better than I do. But when you look at this season, averaging, and Nick, you talked about it, 26 points a game on 60% shooting, that's been done one time. Now, he got to keep that up. But when you think about who he reminds me of, this is Shaquille O'Neal's strength. We're talking about Russell Westbrook explosion, you know, off the dribble, and just how he get from point A to point B. And then he has that Kevin Garnett type of aggression. You know, that Kevin Garnett type of, like, you know, nastiness. And now Kevin Garnett was definitely outspoken. I'm talking about how he snatched the ball off the rim, how he rebounds, how he just muscle people in the paint, and he doesn't care. Like, this dude has it. But the biggest thing that he needs to hone in on is the TB12 method or the LeBron James way, whatever LeBron James call it, because that's the difference between good and great. That's the difference between becoming a great is, can you do it year in and year out? Anybody can do it 1 year.
Trajectory, and it's Luka. One thing that Zion has that Luka doesn't is Zion has the ability to one day also be a great defensive player. And everyone on that list, aside from Magic and to a lesser extent Larry, were great defensive players at points in their career. Everyone in that top 10, 11, it gets, once you get to Steph and so on, it's not the case. Zion has that ability within him. I don't, in theory, Stan Van Gundy's supposed to unlock it. We'll see if he does, Jenna. But Luka, I don't think can ever be a.
All right, end it off there. The Pelicans, if I'm them, I'm keeping Brandon Ingram and Lonzo Ball. That's a huge one they need to keep. Do not let go of Lonzo Ball. He's pretty much been shooting high in the three-point percentage range, and he's been dominating, which I expected Lonzo Ball to be. He's very nonchalant, but you got to commit to him. Zion Williamson, all-time for top 10. I think the best case scenario, he can, if he really wants to have his peak, he would pass over Hakeem and or Wilt Chamberlain to be number 10 all-time on my list. Now, do I expect him to potentially pass over Larry Bird, Tim Duncan, Shaq, and all that? No, I do not. I don't. But I could be surprised. Who knows? He does play more off ball, so this is why I'm stating it within that range. Top 15 for sure, he could be. Top 20, even better within that side of things. But it's still early. It's the second season. Who knows about it? But I'm in off there.